Susan Walsh, welcome to
Hey,
the Data Strategy Show. How are
thank you.
you?
Oh, full of bugs and germs, but
Oh
looking forward to the
no.
end of the year and winding down a little bit.
I bet you are. I bet we all are actually. A lot of people I'm sure will be looking forward to that. So you're you're
Yeah,
you're you're down with some bugs and the usual time of year catching up with you, and you're running around too much, no doubt.
absolutely. And there's no kind of seasonality to my business, but it seems to be pretty kind of consistently like busy right now. So, I
Yeah,
mean, can't complain, but
good,
when
good.
you're ill, it's like, the joys
Oh,
of running a business, you know what it's like.
oh yes. Oh yes, I do. I do. Well, look, here we are. We're going to speak about women in data and tech.
My favorite thing.
And exactly. So I'm glad you're on and that we can have finally have that conversation.
Yeah,
So look, I know that you post a lot around some of the issues and challenges that you see in the industry, whether that's at conferences, whether that's job applications and so on. So, I want to understand your experiences. I want to understand, what you've had to deal with and maybe some of the suggestions that you can provide to others who might well be, coming up or experiencing these certain things and what they
yeah,
need to do and how they need to perhaps be in these
yeah.
situations. But first, let's get an introduction of
Oh,
Susan
yes.
Walsh.
Yes. So, yes, hello, I'm Susan Walsh, known as the classification guru, fixer of dirty data. I've had my business for about 8 years now. We classify spend data for procurement teams, but we also help clean data for ERPs, CRMs, digital transformations. We build taxonomies. I have written a book called Between the Spreadsheets, classifying and fixing dirty data. And I have an optimizing sales and marketing data book coming out next year. I've also got a couple
Fantastic.
of data cleaning courses kicking around on
Hmm.
Pluralsight, O'Reilly, the Analytics Institute. And yeah, just all of this happened because I was just trying to grow my business and keep
Yep.
and stay in business. That
Oh,
that's
well
why all
done.
those things happened.
Good.
Um,
Good.
but thinking back, I've always kind of worked in male dominated spaces. Like I even remember
Hmm.
at school in the computing class, I was one of three girls in a
Right.
class of 30. It was so I don't know if whether I've just grown up and I definitely think probably like my family have something to do with like they never said you can't do that or don't be
Hmm.
ridiculous, even when I
Hmm.
wanted to be a pathologist, which is a
Okay.
bit random. So I
Is
never
that
felt
watching
like
too many crime shows or something like that?
well, this was like in the 90s, so they weren't even like a point horror books I used to read.
Okay. Oh, I
So
see.
maybe it was
Okay.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I've never felt like I couldn't do something because of who I was.
Mm. Mm.
And I'm pretty naturally stubborn and want to prove people wrong.
Yeah.
So I think that's a lot of where I've just kind of bulldozed my way through life. Like,
Hmm.
I'm here and I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and tough luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have so many friends, so many
Mm.
people who are not, especially women, who are not like that, who don't want to put themselves out there or make a fuss, naturally have less confidence or self-belief
Mm.
in what they're
Hmm.
doing. Um, and it can be debilitating for a lot
Yeah.
of women, which is such a shame. As you know, I started a group called Women Who Speak on LinkedIn
Yes,
about
that's
just over
right.
a year ago because I just got fed up of hearing, oh, there's no women speakers, we can't find any.
Mm. Mm.
And we're nearly at 1,000 members now, which is crazy. Like, and this is across all industries. Any woman that just wants to speak at events has
Hmm.
has
Hmm.
joined the group, and it's open to everybody. There's men in there too, and I tried to
Yeah, I'm a member.
publicize. Yay! Well, we tried to share events and things like that. Like just literally yesterday, I found out about a snowflake call for papers, so I shared that. So it's global as well.
Yeah.
Um, and
Is that working? Is that is that generating the confidence and desirability from those individuals who may not put themselves forward, but say, right, I'm going to do it.
Some yes, others no.
Mm,
And I've
okay.
actually said this within the group, like women, you need to help yourselves too, right?
Mm,
This is a shared group, right? It's not a paid for thing, it's not a
yeah.
membership. It's like this is we are going to contribute and support each other.
Yes.
But people are not contributing, they are not sharing. Some people are, and they're sharing like good news or when they've spoken, and that's really great and motivational, but the majority are not.
Mm,
And it's frustrating because we I've you I'm trying to say this in the right way. Like you can't just have everything handed to you on a plate.
sure.
You know, I'm
Sure.
trying to give but you have to do a little bit yourself.
Yeah.
And and this year alone, I've been to some events and people know I'm there and they've had like maybe an all-male panel and they're like, Susan, we're really sorry. We know, that, you'll probably say something. And it's because their woman speaker has pulled out, their backup
Okay.
woman speaker has pulled out.
I see.
Just a couple of weeks ago, I was at an event, and fair enough, women don't want to travel because of the family and the kids.
Mm,
This
mm,
event organizer was like, bring your kids. I came from a farming industry where the farmers used to bring their whole family to events, like
yeah.
bring them along. Like
Mm,
that was not even a restriction, and they were
right.
still so.
Oh, they're umming and ahhing about that as well, then.
Yeah, and I get right that, not having kids myself, I have a lot more free time,
Mm.
but you can't complain about it and then not go because of things like that. And I know
So,
it's probably sounds a bit harsh actually as a
yeah,
woman,
yeah.
but I sometimes think that that is almost like a default self-sabotage response. Rather than actually thinking, yeah, let's make this work, it's, oh no, I can't do that because of the kids. And it's almost like, oh, maybe an excuse a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
like let's
Mm-hmm.
use that as a reason not to do this when there are a million reasons, amazing reasons to do
Yeah,
it.
to do it.
And
Yeah.
we've just been talking before we started recording about how nowadays, like, you're going to get your job from your network and who you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not
Yep.
at these events, if you are not networking
Yes.
with people, then it's going to be really hard to get your next role or, wherever you want to move to if you are not in those spaces.
And I think what I've listened to when I've been speaking to a lot of the women who have been on the show is that sometimes events are not conducive in terms of timing for them as well.
Yeah,
And that can often be a barrier for them to attend because they
yeah,
have to go home. There are chores or they've got to pick up kids or, so it becomes a very difficult um, play for them to attend an evening event.
yeah.
And an event during the day is probably easier
But and
before,
if there's travel involved and then they're not, I
yes.
mean, most of the time it's very hard to even get
Mm,
your travel costs covered.
mm, mm,
So there's still a lot of work to do on the event side too,
yes.
but we really need to, I think we need to help ourselves a bit more as well.
What do you
And
think
it's hard for
us
me to say that because I want to
yes.
be as supportive and push women forward as much as possible. But
Well, I think there's realistic things that one needs to
yeah,
look at. It's just not saying, let's tiptoe around this.
mm,
We do need to call certain things out. But let's just go back to your group, the women who speak.
yeah.
Um, what do you think are the reasons that the majority don't want to put themselves out there?
So a lot of them, what am I going to speak about? I
Hmm.
don't have anything that anyone wants to hear about.
Okay,
Um, it could be I don't know where to get started.
right.
Or, I've applied for two speaking things and been rejected, so I'm just going to
I
give up.
see. So
Right.
low
And it's like,
confidence and
yeah.
yeah.
And, I have applied for way more things that I didn't get than the stuff I have
Yes.
been to.
Yes.
It's you have to just like keep going and And it's not even necessarily, it just could be that it's not the right topic for the event, or there was maybe too many similar topics, you know, which is why I always say try and do something that's a bit different, stand out, be unique.
Yeah.
And there's
So
definitely a confidence thing too.
what are some of the examples? Because I think standing out for people like you and me is probably a little bit easier. We do put ourselves out there, and I think we've been doing that for a long time. So for those people who are a little bit, you know, more hesitant to do that because they're shy, they're not forthcoming, what does it mean to you to talk about something different? And if you can offer some examples, that might be of interest to other people listening.
I think the first thing is it has to be something you're comfortable with, because otherwise it's not going to come across very well. If you're already feeling self-conscious, it's going to make it worse. So it could be a really catchy title for your talk, right? And you know, it could be controversial, it could be funny, but make it something memorable. Or it could be, you know, you've got a kind of normal general topic, but you wear bright colors, you wear bright earrings. If you're a man, you wear a funky tie or a bow tie. You know, there's in the click world, Dalton Moore has his sparkly green big bow tie, you know.
Right.
So you're putting the focus on that rather than yourself almost. You know, I know it sounds silly because you might think you're drawing attention to yourself, but people are more busy looking at than you. You have to be comfortable and know what you're talking about. So don't go and talk about something that you're not sure about. You know your topic inside out, and then if it's something you're passionate about, that will just come across, you know. And like most people, if you mess up, like they won't even know you've messed up. You'll know, but nobody else will. And honestly, like, let's face it, people's attention spans are what, 10 minutes at a time. So it's like, you know, I think we overthink so much. And it's like, just go and do it. And like the audience is there to support you and cheer you on, and they want to learn from you. They're there because you have something that they want to hear about. Don't put unnecessary pressure on yourself. And yeah, and you know, like you're saying, you know, evening events can be difficult, but you know, ask the event organizers to be more flexible. Can you go on right before lunch or right after lunch so that you can get home in time? Or, you know, you don't have to stick around for the whole day. You know, or maybe it's not about speaking at first. Maybe it's going on a panel and just talking about what you know. That's way more comfortable. Start with podcasts. You don't even have to leave your home.
Yes.
Right? And then it's out there.
On that note, what's really funny, right, for me, I have gone out there to contacted women, many women. I don't know, God, how many I should count actually. But the amount of times people say no is more than they say yes. Even for a podcast.
That makes me sad. Like, what an opportunity. And again, you know, it's about visibility. Whether you think you need it or not, at some point in the future, you will need that visibility. And like, what if your next employer sees something that you spoke about and you would never have been on the radar otherwise? You know, it's just, you have to think of everything as an opportunity rather than a chore, or like you're investing in yourself. Like you really are.
I think that's important. Just to pick up on the event space, because I know you go to a lot of events, and we'll come back to what we're talking about in a minute, but it's just something you said earlier. Are events progressive now, or are they reverting back to the old type of, because you call that out a lot in your posts?
I would say we have progressed. I think last year I remember there was one event I turned up later in the day and I walked into a room and it was just full of men. Now, it was like they'd all been with each other all day. I literally knew nobody in this room. And even for me, I was a bit like, oh, this is a bit overwhelming. And
Right.
I literally just had to go and stand and like force myself into group conversations and be like, hi, I'm Susan. But nobody was coming to reach out and say, hi, come join our conversation. So when I'm at events, and then more women did join, so I'm like, come over and talk to us, because they
Mm,
were like
mm.
lost sheep. Um, so I think there's like maybe an awareness piece as well, because like naturally we tend to gravitate towards people who are like us, right?
Sure, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Like if I
Well,
see a bunch of Scottish people, I'm
yeah.
heading, like there was a guy with a kilt last week, and I
Okay, so
made a
you went straight
beeline
to
for
him.
him
Yeah,
just to
yeah,
say hi because he had a
yeah.
kilt on, you
Yeah,
know?
and you have an affinity, so
Yeah,
it's easier to break bread with a person like that. I was at a woman in data. Actually, it was it was Scottish Widows. They did
yeah.
it wasn't a women in data. It was women in pensions.
Hmm.
And obviously Scottish Widows were doing it. Now I walked into a room full of women at the networking area, and I got to tell you, it was difficult for me to break into conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
You
was
can't get a word
one.
in edgeways,
No,
right?
I was one of probably four men in the room
Yeah,
amongst maybe close to 100 women.
yeah,
And I really felt it for the first time
yeah,
and so I had to sort of go up and actually, as you did, as you said, I had to kind of introduce and interject in conversations. Now, it was the first time that for a long time that I've actually felt, am I the odd one out here? I feel like
yeah.
I'm, oh, this is really uncomfortable. And it actually, for a moment, I just thought, wow, I haven't experienced this for a long time.
But
But it's a good thing
it
that I should
forces you to
experience.
push yourself
Yeah,
out your comfort zone, right?
exactly,
You have to
exactly.
just go
Yeah,
and do that. And
yes,
then, within
yeah.
5 minutes, everyone's good friends.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was going and speaking to these people and those people, and we are having a great conversation. I was like, oh, you know, that's cool. But it was like icy cold when I walked in,
Yeah.
so it was a really
Yeah,
weird
but I mean,
feeling.
I've noticed this. I've gone to events where it's been more men, and it's the tone, and it's a lower tone and vibe. And then you walk into a
Right.
room full of women and it's like, and
Yes.
there's just like so much energy.
Yes. Yeah,
Which,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I guess that can be just as
Uh,
intimidating too,
yep, yep, yep. Yeah, because you're walking and you think, oh, who do I go and speak to? And again, I'm looking for somebody who might, you
Like
know,
anyone I know,
yeah,
anyone.
exactly. That's the first thing. And I thought, I don't know anybody. And then there was a couple of people who just sort of, I think there were other women who didn't know anybody, and we sort of just gravitate towards each
Exactly.
other.
Yeah,
Yeah, you find each other. Yeah,
and because I mean, we've been doing this event circuit for years now, right? You
yeah.
kind of think, oh, I know everybody, and
Oh,
then it
yes.
really kind of snaps you back into kind of grounds you when you realize actually, I still have to put the effort in. I still
It
have to work at this, and I
it
still
does.
have to like go and make the effort.
Yeah, yeah. And it actually gave me a bit of it was the realization that I actually need to be more active, and I need to be at many more of these types of events, because one, obviously doing the podcast, but two, it makes me go through some uncomfortableness that I have to overcome. And if I don't overcome that, I'm just going to be sitting there saying, I'm not going to go do that. I've kind of had that feeling as well,
Yeah.
which is probably what you talked about earlier.
Yeah, and there was they say like the magic happens outside of your comfort zone.
Yes, exactly. It certainly does. It certainly does. Yeah.
And I have never been to an event where someone has messed up and been berated for it. Everyone's always really supportive, and I've never seen that. It's we think the worst is going to happen and it never does.
No, no, it never does. No, it never does. So, I'm just thinking about, what do women need to do in order to brush that kind of um, hesitancy, the feeling of, oh, I don't really want to go and
Oh,
do
don't
that
want
for
to do that.
certain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What would you say are your top three things? And I know you talked about just pushing through, but for you and maybe me, it's a little bit easier for us to do that. So what would be the things that you would say to somebody who's a little bit more reticent, who's a little bit more standoffish about this stuff? because just bulldozing our way into it is not that, well, that won't work
That's not for
for most
everyone, yeah.
people. Right.
No, actually, you're not doing this for you. You're doing this for
Mm,
your daughters, your sisters,
mm,
your future grandchildren.
mm,
You're doing it for you've got a wife as well.
yeah.
This is, if we're not there on stage and our kids and the next generation don't see themselves being represented, then nothing's going to change.
Mm,
Um, you might think it's only me, but there's like thousands of other women saying it's only me, and then nobody goes to that event, and then it's full of men, and then we don't move forward,
mm,
and the
mm,
audience has missed out on a balanced discussion with different perspectives
yeah.
because it's not, you know, balanced or diverse or
Of course.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's not just a women thing, that's anyone from
That's anyone. That's right.
any diversity,
Yeah.
yeah. And even things like, I obviously have a milder accent now, but I really stood out when I first moved down south.
Okay. Okay.
And that could have gone two ways. That could have put me into kind of like, I'm not going to speak because people are going to notice my accent. I used it, I was in sales at the time too, so I used it as my
Mm-hmm.
advantage. And it's that memorable thing again, right?
Right.
Like own your identity, your accent, your whatever, have pink hair if you want, um, make it something rather than turn it into a positive rather than a
Mm-hmm.
negative. Look, try and
Mm-hmm.
think of everything as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Whether it's an opportunity for now or it's something for in the future. But more than anything, be a role model.
Mm. Yeah, it's vital, really, isn't it? As you say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely look at my daughter right now, and I say to people selfishly on the podcast, I'm having these conversations because I know that I've got a daughter and she's going to be going out into the world, and it's going to be different for when she's going to be going out into the world. So whatever I can learn from the women I'm speaking to,
Yeah.
I can impart that knowledge to her because I don't know everything. I don't know what you're
Yeah.
feeling. I don't get it. So she might come back and tell me something, but like, oh wow, you had that experience. Well, actually, let's listen to this person who came on my podcast, and
Yeah.
it would be interesting for her just to sort of understand those dynamics.
And I get, like psychologically, it's hard, right? This is a real push for a lot of women to
Yeah,
do this, but don't don't do what I do. And like, the first time I ever spoke on stage, I did a freaking TEDx talk, right? Start
right.
small,
Yes.
podcasts. It could be a 5-minute podcast. It doesn't have to be like really long.
Mm,
Just film a video and post it on LinkedIn, right? Something as simple as that. And trust me, I've done enough videos now to look past me and what I
yes.
look like and how
Oh,
I
absolutely.
sound. I
Agreed.
can kind of
Agreed.
be
Yeah.
kind of impartial on that now. It takes
Mm,
practice. So like the more you do it, the easier it will get. And hell, record a ton of videos and don't post them anywhere, but just get the
yeah. Just have
practice.
them done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I, I think it's about that consistency, that practice, and I think it's getting what you just said is very important. It's about getting past yourself.
Mm.
Because that's one big
We're
barrier that I see
let's
from a
face it,
lot
we're
of
all
people.
worried about what other people think about us, right?
Yeah, but
And
we can't control that.
I know, and
I
that's just
actually,
one person's
yeah,
opinion, right? And who
yeah,
cares, because we're quite easy to take on people's negative comments about us, but not so much the positive comments.
yes. Well,
So
I go back to a quote. I can't remember who said it, but it's none of my business what people say about me.
yeah, that's true.
So yeah, it's so what? So because otherwise your brain will kick into a very um, radical third voice, which will start to tell you all of the biases, all of the challenges, and it will just weigh you down. And then you're
Yeah,
suddenly thinking to yourself, I can't do anything.
yeah,
So really, it's none of my business what they think of me.
yeah.
That's down to them. I
Am
can't
I
control
am I
that.
living a good, happy life for
Yeah,
myself? Yes, I am. Then that's all that matters.
yeah.
Um, and I can't remember what I was going to say there, but
No problem. But let's talk
it's,
about.
yeah, I guess I didn't start out
Mm,
like this. Like I did
mm,
worry about what people thought about me, just like everybody else.
of course.
And then when I started to be more visible on LinkedIn, I realized that, like, I had to put all of me out there, however good, bad, and ugly, because otherwise you get caught out. And then once once I stopped really caring about what other people thought, it's so freeing.
Yes, it
Now
certainly
I
is.
could put the worst content out there. I don't care. Like I did
Yeah,
it, I did it.
yes.
I'll make better content next time, you know?
I I have a mentee who is going through that same challenging aspect right now, and she's female, and we talk about this, and I I say to her every single time, you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to get into the mode of creating that article or putting a small post out, however you think it is. And every time she says, I'm going to do it,
She doesn't.
and she doesn't. And it's frustrating for me. And I even said to her, let's write it together. I'll guide you through that process.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do a 5-minute clip that you and I can talk about something and we can
Yeah.
put it on. It's a blocker because I think that right now she's in that mode of I need to be perfect.
Yeah, that is a massive issue for a lot of women. And actually, I have to be honest and say as well that it can be really difficult if you're working for a company, because
Mm,
you might also have to be careful about what
about
you
what you
say,
say.
how you say
Yes.
it, how you come across. So that can be difficult too. But if you have a good employer, they would want to be supportive of you posting and sharing your knowledge. And look, look at this amazing employee we've
Mm,
got. We're
mm,
so proud
mm.
to have this person,
Yeah, yeah.
representing us.
And I would say to anybody, not just women, anybody who's feeling in that way, post once a month. So what? You may post it and then say, "Oh, I feel uncomfortable." But then once you see what happens after that, you know,
Well,
you
even for me, who's been posting religiously for about 7 years now, it's like 2% maybe of your whole
yes,
network will see
yeah,
that.
who actually
It's
sees it
so
exactly?
small. So
Yes,
it could be the best thing in the world or the worst thing in the world, and the same amount of
yeah,
people are going to see it. And it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
is it worth worrying about?
Well, and with the way that the algorithm is working now,
Oh, well,
it's just it never goes anywhere these days. But
no.
actually, that is something that we talked about earlier.
Hmm.
Now, we talked about bias, and
Mm.
I know that you've written in your new book about bias, and I know that we talked about your suspicions or
Yeah.
maybe what's happening on LinkedIn. But let's talk about that. What you what
Yeah.
what you might have been seeing or
So,
hearing.
yeah, I saw a post just yesterday. This
Mm,
woman had posted that she used to get like hundreds of thousands of impressions, and now it's down to the thousands.
mm,
And she suspected that it was because she was a woman. And then a lot of other women came forward. And then I tagged my friend who is a PhD researcher in AI bias.
right.
And she had said, actually, I changed my gender, did a post, and it did quite well. The other one bombed.
Okay.
Um, so that is concerning. But again, if AI learns from training data sets, if there's
Mm,
bias in the original
mm,
data,
of course.
and it could be the way that men communicate versus women. I don't know. Um, but the other thing is, I have always just done my own thing. I've never like followed the do this, do that, don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I've just kind of plodded along consistently.
Yes.
So, you know, I don't know. Are
Mm,
we are we willing this into, and I do believe there's a bias, but are we willing it into more of an existence than it is? Like,
mm, mm.
you know, we're so hung up on the numbers now, and it's like, but what if like that one post means something to one person? Like, is
Yes.
that not enough?
Exactly.
Does
Yeah,
it
yeah.
have to mean something to 1,000 people?
True. I think the vanity side of it is what people have always worried about. How many impressions do you get on that post? Oh, I got 1,000. Oh, I only got five. You know,
But
I
what if
went
that
past
those
that.
five were like five
Yeah,
clients and the
yeah, yeah,
1,000 were none?
exactly. Yeah, and that's what I said. I mean, I like you. I think I've been posting for 10 years or something like that now, and there are times when I'll have amazing posts that will go, viral. There are other times where it's like tumbleweed, and I just think, okay, you know, I'll get
And
200 impressions, and that's
but the
that.
viral posts, right? It's not even
Yeah,
people that you want to see your
no,
stuff, is it?
no,
It's just like the
no,
general,
no.
the
It's the
stuff
work.
that's really
Yeah,
generic and non-specific
yes,
to data or
yeah,
women or procurement
yes,
or whatever
yes.
do really well because everybody can relate to it.
Well, you talked about a post that you did on Monday about being ill and
Yeah,
not feeling well, and it just
yeah.
kind of,
And saying I'd overdone it and burned
yeah,
out and
yeah,
everyone, and it did well and that's great, but that's not going to drive like business for me. It's going
sure,
to drive
sure,
awareness for
yes,
people, a whole load of
yeah,
new people will know who I am from that post for a
of
day
course,
and
yeah.
then they'll disappear and then that's it.
That's yeah, I mean, that's the nature of the beast, really, isn't it? That's just LinkedIn.
I think I've always kind of mostly posted for me because I'm having fun
Yes,
and enjoying it. The minute I stop enjoying it, I won't do
yeah.
it anymore.
Well, I think that's also a consideration for many people, and specifically, I think women, because one of the elements is, as we talked about, putting yourself out there. But I think the other element is when you start to get feedback on your post
Hmm.
and when you start to get people commenting and maybe they're not the comments that you're expecting. Sorry, you're
Yeah.
smiling there and
Yeah. I'm just thinking back to my quote framework,
okay.
so data's got to be consistent, organized, accurate, and trustworthy.
Hmm.
And a few years ago, I was privately messaged by a guy, and he was just like, I really think you need to change that T to timely. It's very important. And I said, well, I'm coming from a procurement data side of things. So
Sure.
actually, trustworthy is more important than timely. I
Yeah.
said, he's like, well, people change their minds in the future. So I'm like, look, feel free to go ahead and create your own,
Yeah.
acronym. Go for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
said, but yeah, I'm not changing mine. But he was
Well,
adamant it should be timely.
okay. Well, he could always, as you
And
said,
I could
create
have
something of his
I could
own.
have taken that really badly.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not changing that, stubborn
How
old
dare
me.
you?
But I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
that people might take that really personally, and it's
Yeah.
like everybody's got an opinion about something, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the bit which is the human fragility that that we have to deal with, and maybe I and I guess that just points to what your boundaries are and what you're able to take as an
Hmm.
individual. I think we've all got that. It's just not the fact that all men are robust and they can
Oh
accept
no,
anything. That's not true, right?
no.
So I think it's very much down to the individual and what you can tolerate, I guess.
Hmm.
And maybe that's why many people don't like to put themselves out there because they don't want to have those kind of exchanges with people.
Yeah. And also, let's face it, I think there is that kind of like, you don't want to be seen as weak, right?
Mm,
Or a failure.
mm,
But actually, that's how we all learn.
mm. Is there a because you've just said we don't want to be weak and we don't want to be a failure. The fear of failure, is that something that women feel more than men? Is that something that you've seen over your experiences and your discussions with people?
Yeah, I think we're supposed to be able to do it all, right?
Mm.
And I'll never
Is that
forget.
the expectation? We're supposed to do it all.
I don't feel like that,
Mm.
but I think for society wise, there could be, it's like it's the woman that keeps the house together, right?
Yes.
And does all the
True.
work and all that
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget as a teenager in one of my classes, one of my teachers had a sign up that said, um, and it was something like, to be a woman, you have to work twice as hard to look half as good as a man.
Okay.
And that was like in the 90s, like, but that
Wow.
always stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that still kind of rings true, right? Because, you don't see men cancelling events because of childcare issues, right?
Mm, mm. Yeah. I mean, unless they're single fathers who don't have
Yeah.
the, the possibility of then getting uh, a last minute support or help or whatever. Yeah, I guess from my perspective, the experiences I've had, I can only talk to the experiences that I've had of inviting women onto my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And that hasn't been a great experience in of
That's
itself.
such a shame because what an
Mm.
opportunity.
Yeah, and I've now got to the point where I say, okay, well, that's
Maybe they just
fine.
don't like you. I'm just kidding.
Now you've put that.
Maybe
Maybe
it
that's the
is
thing.
you. No, I'm
Oh,
just
I,
kidding.
I, I have thought that as well. But I mean, here we are, us having this conversation, and I don't feel that I'm, and I've introspectively looked at myself. Well, I said, no, I don't make people feel uncomfortable. I don't,
No.
I'm very open to learning, and so no, I don't think it's me. I just think it's the hesitancy to put yourself out there. I think it's sometimes the flawed nature of, as you said earlier, looking at yourself and saying, did I say the right thing? And oh, I want to change that because then that now is going to be out there on the internet and out there on podcast platforms
Yeah.
forever. And I don't necessarily want myself to be out there that
Mhm.
much. Now, I've said things in podcasts which I reflect upon. I said, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that," but I said it now, and that's that.
You know what? And it's you can't
Yeah.
probably can't even remember what you said now. It's
No,
like it's long
no,
gone.
yeah, exactly.
People listen and
Yeah,
then they're on to the next podcast.
they are, and I think that that's the bit which I often have the conversation, to say, yes, I have many listeners, and yes, I think that they probably are demographic, specific demographics. But I've had in season 2, I had a lot of women coming on. Season 3, not so much because they weren't comfortable with those types of conversations.
Yeah.
And then I said to myself, I've really got to have a season. And I was sitting down with my wife, and she just said, you're frustrated about this, aren't you? I said, yeah, because I need to have more women on my podcast,
Well,
not just,
also, like you're not going to change your demographic if it's men all the time,
no,
right? You need
exactly,
women on to
exactly.
attract
Yeah,
more women.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a
It,
perpetuating
it, it is
circle of
exactly. And I think that that's, it's incumbent on me because I've got a platform, and to use that platform. And I don't want to make this about myself, but I think it's, I'm just putting myself out there to say, hey, listen, if you want to come on, just come on and,
yeah.
be, you and
Well,
there are people who come on I've never met.
yeah.
And we've just talked for 15 minutes beforehand, and we're like, right, you ready to go? And they're like, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
somebody said to me, oh, I thought we were already recording. I said, no, we haven't started yet,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And some people are really good at just rocking up and talking, and some people
yes,
do need to warm
just
up a bit
they
more.
do.
And
They do. Yeah.
earlier in the year, I moderated 2 panels, and one panel, we'd had one call beforehand, everyone just rocked up and was ready to
Mm,
talk. Another panel, one of the women was like, we need to meet beforehand, we need to we need to go through everything we're going to talk about. And I'm like, I can guarantee you that everything we talk about beforehand will be forgotten and it'll be a whole
yes.
different discussion on stage. But if that
Yes.
makes you feel better, then let's do that.
Yeah. And I think that's
Um,
contextual, isn't it? Because you have
yeah,
to, there are certain people who are going to feel like that
yeah,
I must have all my, I's dotted and
yeah.
the T's crossed. So you're always going to have that. And I think,
Hmm.
you have to help that person,
Yeah.
like you did. You have to. Otherwise, it probably won't be as successful, or they probably won't speak. They will
Or
just close
they will
up.
think of it as not a good experience, and you don't want them
Yes.
to not do any more because of that
Yeah.
either.
Yeah, yeah. So here's something that I want to ask you. You've got the women who speak. What can you do more that will help in that area
I
and in that
guess,
group? I know you're doing
yeah.
stuff already, but what
No,
what do you think that you could do more?
I wish I had more time to do
Mm,
more like share more knowledge and give them more
Yeah.
resources and tools and things like that.
Mm.
But I don't want it to just be my perception or my
Sure.
perspective. I
Of
want it to
course.
be like everybody
A
comes
collective.
with their experiences. You know, I'm if I see an event, I tell people that I'm going to post it in the group. I share it in the group. You know, we've got a spreadsheet and I've asked people to put events that they might know about and put it in the spreadsheet. You know, short of dragging them up on
Yeah.
stage myself, you know, maybe spend more time. But again, it's, you know, we have got to be responsible for our own presence and activities too, you know.
Yeah.
I can only help so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very
But
true.
I'll always call out like the terrible events that have just full of men, macho, testosterone men, you know. Like there was one I got myself blocked on Instagram because I
Oh, did
called
you?
out, yeah, it was Joe Wicks and it was like the London's biggest, best business event. And I was like, what? So there's no women? And then the one of the speakers who had posted it was like, we've got a whole post with just women. And I said, but this is the post I saw. This is the one that made me feel excluded. And he was, but we've got women speakers. And he just did not understand the perception that was
Right.
portraying.
Yeah.
And so he blocked me.
Okay. Well,
But shame on Joe Wicks too, because he's got daughters, you know.
right.
But I think
And
sometimes these people get signed up for stuff and they don't even know how they're being advertised or
and
aware.
and I wonder whether that's, if I look at it from outside of this conversation, I wonder whether that's just putting famous people up on a cover, for a marketing
Oh,
cover
totally. This is like
to get
this
people
was
to
like
walk through
I
and
thought it
get
was
in,
kind of shady. It looked shady, you
Oh,
know.
right. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I'm
Um,
assuming that this is a ploy. This is a marketing ploy to get people through the door. And, let's get what's his name?
oh, Joe Wicks,
Oh, Joe Wicks. Yeah. I guess he's that
Mr. Fitness
exercise
Man.
dude. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't know him that well.
No, I don't follow
Um,
him.
so, let's get him.
I'm not really a fitness guru myself. I'm a classification guru.
Yeah. Well, that's fitness in one way, isn't it?
But you can only be like good at one thing, right? You
Yeah.
can't be good
Yeah.
at everything.
Exactly. Look, my final question to you is this. For the females who are now thinking of getting into the role of, a data analyst or data scientist, or who's thinking of, hopefully this can reach out to those people who might be at university, or those people who are thinking of doing, taking a STEM degree or something. What's the top three advice that you would give them that would help them manage their career in some way, but also manage the way that they put themselves out there, and help themselves, as you said earlier, to be more vocal, to extend their reach beyond their comfort zone.
So the first thing is understand where your skills and strengths are and focus on developing those. Don't worry about the stuff you're not good at. Focus on the things you're good at and get better at those. That will bring confidence that then you can then talk about it,
Yep.
you know, through your work. And you know, you don't have to be good at everything, specialize in one specific area. Do that. And start small.
Yeah.
If you're at uni, do a class presentation. You know, film yourself in the house or whatever, you know, just small and whatever. It doesn't have to be a massive big thing. And figure out what you want to be known for. So, you know, I am the fixer of dirty data. That is, I do a lot of things, but
Yep.
people know me for that one thing. It's the memorable thing again, right? Be memorable for something, you
Right.
know, whatever that is. And you just have to take that leap and believe that there's better things on the other side. It's not as scary as you think it's going to be.
Yep, great advice. I do like the final one where just take the leap.
Yeah.
I think everybody's got to do that, but specifically in this context for those women who are feeling overwhelmed. But
Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you very much, Susan.
Actually,
It's
one more
been
thing. You don't have to
yeah.
be
Oh,
everything to everybody.
okay.
Do what's right for you and
Yep,
nobody else.
yep. Perfect. And on that note, thank you
Thanks
for
so
giving me your
much.
time. Thanks for coming onto the show, and hopefully you will be all
Germ
fine,
free.
better, yeah,
Yeah.
germ free in the next week or so.
Oh,
Hopefully,
let's hope
yeah,
so. Yeah.
yes,
What a year.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you take care. Good to speak.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.